The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
These guys aren't playing around. It's time to put the books away and get in the room. It's time for Wrestling Recess. Now your hosts, Dyson Gould and Dom Deputy. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
Welcome in, wrestling fans. You are now tuned in the PA Power Wrestling Recess podcast. I'm your host, Dyson Gould, and today I'm joined by IA Wrestling's Ross Bartachek. How's it going today, Ross?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here on the PA Power Wrestling Recess podcast, man. I'm happy to join you, D-Money.
What have you been up to during this quarantine?
I've been fortunate enough to work from home, so I guess it's been 30 days now. I've been just working away in the basement, doing a little bit of the day job, doing a little bit of the wrestling stuff. So just living that life.
You've been busting out them Hawkeye Wrestling Club articles.
It's been fast and furious the last 5 days. Yeah, it's been crazy.
So we'll kind of plan for this show just to touch on some of the recent news in the wrestling world. And then at the end, I'll kind of ask Ross some questions. So first, I think the first coaching changes were Chris Pendleton and Kerry Collette. Pendleton going to Oregon State and Collette going to Navy. What were your thoughts on those, Ross?
So there's some Iowa ties, or Iowa trickle down effects for both of those news items. I think the first big one was Collette going to Navy. I think that surprised a lot of people. I mean, did it surprise you?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a move I didn't see. I think a lot of people were wondering if he'd take that Maryland job when it opened up, and then that went to Clemson. So that was kind of a surprising move to see him to go to Navy. What I was really happy about is he took Mike Evans and Blaze Cabell, went with him too. Cabell, UNI guy, and Evans obviously wrestled at Iowa, so pretty familiar with both of those guys. But from what I understand, Evans was a really big linchpin in that Campbell program. Obviously, Scotty Sentez taking over Campbell is going to be leaving them in good hands. But I think what Evans was doing there, and there's a lot of success with a lot of his guys. So I think him moving with Collette is a good thing to kind of keep his continuity with staff going. Yeah,
it definitely surprised me because it was kind of weird how that Collette would leave, because he really built that Campbell program up, and then for him to leave, it was surprising. Then especially going to Navy, it was really surprising.
Yeah, just one of those things where I suppose I haven't done enough to look into what was his real motivation, but it's definitely a good opportunity to go to an academy for him, and I'm kind of thrilled to see what he can do. Like you said, Campbell looked like they were really starting to hit their stride. So hopefully it'll kind of be like one of those situations with South Dakota State where Bono really built that program up. Damian Hahn takes over, and he's been doing a really good job keeping it going in Brookings, while Bono's, really reviving Wisconsin. So maybe we'll see two programs, these mid-major programs, if you want to call them, start hitting their strides and start really building something.
Especially at Navy, because always those academy schools are always real tough, because obviously in the military got to be tough. So always tough to wrestle. So hopefully he can get them into some good wrestling technique and stuff like that. And
yeah, I think I saw something crazy that he tweeted that 100% of the wrestlers that go to be a Navy SEAL pass the test.
Yeah, I saw that.
And
That's crazy.
And then I don't know if you follow Seth Duckworth, who does the Oklahoma State, and he said that it's like a 10% success rate for normal people, but it's such a crazy the wrestling mentality. It's 10% for a normal person, but 100% for a wrestler. So I found that really funny and pretty cool.
It just kind of shows the ratio from like everyday life from a normal person to a wrestler, just how tough wrestlers are.
Yeah, and a lot of it's mental, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you hear a lot of talk about that, and I think that's probably a pretty big role. Those wrestlers are already mentally tough. It's pretty tough to break them.
And then maybe one of the other things, definitely some sad news, was Old Dominion having their program discontinued. What are your thoughts on that? It definitely really sucks, but
Oh yeah, I agree. That was a punch to the gut. I've known Jason Bryant for a few years, so I was really feeling for him when that news came down the pike. And now they're talking about with all these revenue problems that all the NCAA schools are having, that there could be a lot of men's non-revenue sports that get put on the chopping block. I think was there maybe a soccer program that was cut somewhere else today?
Yeah, I think Cincinnati today. Maybe.
Cincinnati, there you go. I mean, you're on it, Dyson. Geez. Yes, I mean, just you kind of get a little bit nervous that you don't want it to be the first domino. So, wrestling's been doing a really good job adding programs. So hopefully it's an outlier. I'm not very happy with that administration. And of course I come from the wrestling side, and I see Jason Bryant's point of view because he's the one that's really putting it out there. So yeah, I'm pretty disheartened by it. How about you?
Yeah, it definitely sucked. It was definitely surprising because I think, especially Old Dominion, maybe we kind of thought that a program was going to get cut with this coronavirus stuff with the money, but it was kind of weird to see Old Dominion be the first one because we thought that maybe, at least what I've heard, is they were pretty good financially, and then it kind of just came out of nowhere. Like all the coaches said they had no idea, and then they were just told, "Oh yeah, you're going to be cut."
And the administration had their research into it, what kind of an endowment would be needed to save it, and it was an outrageous number.
Yeah, it was like 25 million or something. Like that's like they're pretty much saying like we don't want you, like just get out. So
yeah, it feels a little bad faith by the administration. So it's a little disheartening to kind of have that. Just it's a slap in the face when they say that amount. So yeah, that was a total bummer. But I guess that just makes you appreciate all the hard work these other smaller programs are doing, and hopefully if there's any that are in trouble, the donors do their part to save programs, and everybody's realizing this should be a wake up call, I guess. If you think your program's in trouble, I know times are tight, but everything helps. So yeah, hopefully keep it going.
Yeah, our PA Power College podcast actually had Jason Bryant on to come get his emotions out and yell some. So make sure you listeners go check that out. It was a great podcast by our guys, Tristan and Rob.
Oh, man, I am so many hours behind on my playlist, but I'm going to download it. I'm going to download it now.
It's a good one. Jason gets pretty fired up.
I can't believe that.
So the next thing we kind of got is, which will kind of lead us into our Hawkeye Wrestling Club talk, is Frank Molinaro is hired as an assistant coach at Arizona State. Obviously, we'll get into who else takes over there, but what are your thoughts? What were your thoughts on Molinaro going very shortly before the other person was hired?
Obviously, that's a pretty great hire by Arizona State. They lost two pretty well thought of talents, Jamil Kelly and Chris Pendleton, who Pendleton's of course taken over Oregon State for former Iowa native there, Jim Zaleski at Oregon State. So that was a little sad to see. Zaleski showing the door, but kind of understandable. But I mean, Molinaro's done some pretty great things. I think, he was at Rutgers. He went back to Penn State. He spent time at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's had their first national champion while he was there, I think. So I think, there's a lot of good things said about Frank. Unfortunately, being on the Iowa side of the rivalry, I've seen more of him as a competitor and haven't, really been around him enough to know him as a coach, and you just kind of hear more on hearsay. So, I mean, I think from everything I hear, he's a great coach. So Arizona State and Zeke Jones looking to, keep his program pumping along after losing two good coaching talents.
Yeah, I think he definitely replaces Pendleton and Jamil pretty well. I think, like you said, Virginia Tech having their first national champ with him on the staff, and I think I saw something. Maybe he was training at Oklahoma, but I'm not sure if that's true. But I think
I do remember seeing. Was it maybe an Oklahoma wrestler or somebody? Yeah, tweeted like it's been great having him. No, you're right.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because I don't know, because it seemed like I never heard anything about him at Oklahoma, but I guess maybe he was there training or something. But he did coach at Virginia Tech, and he was great during his college career at Penn State, and had a great international career. So I think it's a great coach for them to fill in.
Yeah, I'm really, they got Zeke. He's, good with the lightweights. We're going to talk about somebody that's pretty good with the middleweights. So, to have Frank kind of be in that right in between, that gap where he's pretty good with those real middleweights, and a little bit lighter. Yeah, that'll be really, just filling the hole right there. So
now we move on to the meat of the show and Ross's favorite part, the Hawkeye Wrestling Club talk. So our first thing, Mark Perry leaves, says he's going to Arizona State. What are your initial thoughts on that one, and just what do you think about it?
I was heartbroken. Mark Perry was, this is just because of a personal perspective, but the first nationals I ever attended was Mark Perry's national title over Hendricks. I just got that connection where I was like, this is the first NCAA finals experience I ever had. So I've always had a really, I've had a pretty big affinity for Mark. And when he came back, it was pretty great to be able to interact with him, at the HWC functions and interview him when he got back and to hear his excitement. This was obviously the Hawkeye Wrestling Club was a different role for him, being the, on the college side. He wasn't fully in that international style, and he really immersed himself in that. So he took on a new challenge, and I think he's pretty successful. He had a world silver medalist on the men's side in his first year at the club. He brought in 4 really strong women that made a lot of world teams at different levels. So the Hawkeye Wrestling Club was really pumping along. I think, the move was probably coming. It was going to be one of those weird deals with the Olympics getting pushed back a year. Were people going to change their plans and stick around through the 2021 now, or like we always see at the end of a cycle, guys always take new positions at the end of a Olympic cycle. So it wasn't terribly surprising, but it was gut wrenching for me to see Mark. But he's going to go out to Arizona State, and I'm sure they're going to, I'm sure he's going to be. Now he gets to recruit the West Coast a lot easier than he could at Iowa, bring those guys in. So, I think there's going to be some really big things going on in Tempe.
Yeah, like you said, he had some great success at the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, bringing in the girls, having a world silver medalist in Gillman. And I was actually at the Hawkeye Wrestling Club freestyle camp last year, and he was there showing some technique and stuff. And he seemed like he was a great coach and a great guy, very intense, like the brands, and seemed like a great guy, like I said. So it's really sad to see him go, but as we'll talk in later, I think we got a good person to fill in for him.
Yeah, and Mark, he, like you said, he was very intense, but he was really passionate about, wrestling, and that was kind of one of the things I loved about having him around is he really went all in, and he knew everything. He was on for every interview. It wasn't like he had to really think about, who was Gillman wrestling and did this. Like he was always on, it seems like. So, he's got an incredible mind for wrestling. So definitely sad to see him go, but things change. And like Tom Brand says, onward.
Yeah. Like I'm sad, like you said, I'm sad to see him go, but happy to see him get a college coaching job out there in Tempe, and excited to see what he can do there with the Sun Devils.
Yeah, I think he's going to be great. Yeah.
Now moving on to Thomas Gillman. He tweeted out that he was leaving Iowa City, heading to State College. Never good when you see that, but what are your thoughts on Gillman to the NLWC?
That was I was surprised. I was taken aback by him going to Nittany Lion. I had an article written up that he was going with Perry because I knew how close those two were. And, you listen to all of Gillman's interviews. I've listened to a handful, but, with the clips I've listened to a handful in their entirety, but I've, seen the clips, and a lot of them, almost every single one of them, you hear Gillman say, Perry was my guy. I was Perry's guy. We were peas in a pod. We were tight. We were thick as thieves. And so when Perry went, I was like, well, why wouldn't he go to Sunkiss? That's, pretty good situation. Zeke was a national team coach. There's a lot of good reasons to go to Arizona State too. So I kind of thought that was where the chips were going to fall. And I got blindsided.
Yeah, I think I saw something that maybe it was his fiance is from Pennsylvania, so that's maybe why they're coming here. But and he said, I also heard that it had nothing to do with financially, which I believe. And then he said they had nothing to do with Spencer, but I don't think it has anything directly to do with Spencer. But I think like he did go on to say it's like Perry was his guy, he was Perry's guy. So and then Tom and Terry were Spencer's guy, obviously, because they had to focus on the college kids. So I think it was kind of once Perry left, it was like his lone ally was kind of gone. So I don't think it had anything directly to do with Spencer, but I think it was kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a tough situation. And I totally believe him too, that it's not financially motivated. He's always been a straight shooter. So that's what he said on the Justin Bosch's podcast, that, it's a pretty parallel move for him in terms of financial gain. So I believe him. I think this gives him definitely a different feel. I'll be interested to see, we still don't know how the move to Nittany Lion is going to work out for Kyle Snyder. And that was their first big free agent pickup. So, and, with Cox coming for the 97 spot, right? So kind of see what's, there's a lot of interesting narratives to follow with these two free agents. Penn State goes out and poaches, will they be good enough to make the team after moving there? That's something I'm kind of interested to watch for.
Yeah, he said it also had something to do with friendship with Zane, going overseas and stuff like that, being friends with Zane. And then he said they also, like Zane and the guys were also like just always talking to Kale and being like, hey, this could be a guy to pick up. Hey, you should talk to Gillman, stuff like that. And then I guess he said kind of just Kale kind of reached out to him after the Olympic trials were postponed. And then he said, I'll think about it. And then it's kind of just called him back and said he was in. So, yeah, like you said, Snyder and Gillman, both free agents they picked up. It's crazy how you really like my first thought was NLWC, he won't have any partners at lightweight. And I was like, wait a second. Well, I guess he could roll with Zane and Zane and Nolf if he wanted, and RBY, and he's actually got a ton of partners. And it's crazy to think also that Penn State could potentially fill the whole Olympic team next year, or a Nittany Lion Wrestling Club could, with Gillman, Rutherford, possibly Nolf, and then I saw a tweet. I'm blanking on 74, but then
they do have Vincenzo, but Nolf's at 74 too now, right?
Yeah. 70. Yeah. Never mind. I'm blanking on my Olympic weights.
Yep. So you're good.
So then we got Hall too, and then
Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor at 86, and then 97 Snyder, and then possibly Kassar at heavyweight.
Yeah, they definitely stacked up with talent, right?
Yeah, that's crazy. Especially those upper weights going at it. If Kassar's healthy, or at least when he gets healthy, Kassar, Snyder, Taylor. I mean, that's just Nickel, Sanderson. That's unbelievable.
And they got Varner in the room too.
Yeah.
Then Eric Thompson was a big time name at Grandview, and obviously had some success on the senior level domestically too. So yeah, they got some horsepower in those upper weights. I find it difficult. Obviously, in Iowa, there's the Iowa narrative at least we hear it more. So it's a little bit different from what I imagine it's different from what people hear outside the state. But, during the 2016 trials, it was really awkward with Ramos and Dennis. Obviously they had a little bit of a different relationship in the room, I think. And, Tom was very complimentary this whole, last 2 years with Gillman and Lee and how they interact, and how Gillman's been a really big teacher to Spencer. So it does kind of stink. And if, like you said, he talked about how Perry left, and he knows that Spencer's going to be Tom and Terry's guy. So he felt like he had to, go out on his own and make his own name. So it's just a little bit different, because I find it hard to believe that at the end of the day, Tom wouldn't do anything for Gillman. So I know Spencer is his day job, but he also has a part in the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, and he's put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into Thomas Gillman too, and has been with him through everything from not starting as a redshirt freshman, and getting him to Iowa City. It just I know he said he couldn't make it an emotional decision, but there's a lot of, I have a hard time believing Tom and Terry wouldn't be there to support him too. So
Yeah. So then I skipped over this when we were talking about Perry, but so what are your thoughts on the girls? Do you think they end up going with Perry? Do you think they stay with Dennis? Do you think they go to Colorado Springs? Where do you think they go?
That is a tough question. I would probably lean that they kind of do the same thing and explore their options. I would assume, they seem pretty tight knit. They're always posting on social media with them hanging out. I would assume they kind of move together, and if, Colorado Springs is probably the best place for them to do that. There's not a ton of clubs that, I mean, maybe this is changing, but there's not a ton of clubs that are, actively trying to, that have the budget to bring in the women. Tar Heel Wrestling Club is definitely one, but you don't see a lot of multiple women in one spot. So that is kind of a unique advantage that I'm sure Iowa will want to hold on to. Women's wrestling's growing like crazy in the state of Iowa, so maybe that's something they really want to try and hang on to, kind of giving them their competitive edge. But at the end of the day, I feel personally that they probably look elsewhere, but that's not based on any conversations with the women or conversations with anybody with the club either. So that's just kind of my gut.
Yeah, I think they definitely kind of leave, especially because they were really close to Perry. I think maybe even closer than Gillman was, just because when you think Mark Perry, Hawkeye Wrestling Club, you almost kind of think the girls, because there aren't too many men that are. Gillman was maybe like our only like top guy, like really competing for a world team spot. But then you got a couple women always in the race. So like kind of you think Hawkeye Wrestling Club, you kind of think the girls. So it's kind of you definitely think that they'll move maybe with Perry or maybe just go to Colorado Springs. I think it'd be kind of surprising if they stayed.
Well, so like I know Kayla was sun-kissed already, right? So, a move to Tempe for her could make a lot of sense. I'm not sure about the other girls if they were already affiliated with Sunkist or not. I don't feel like they were. I think like Allie might be Titan Mercury. But yeah, you talk about it and you kind of hit it on the head there that I think three of the women were on the senior team last year, right? Miracle, Molinari, and Reagan all made the senior team.
Yeah.
They all competed at Senior Worlds, and then Beck was on the junior team.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not 100% sure where she fell in the senior trials process, but she did pretty well.
I think she lost to Louise in the U.S. Open finals, I believe.
Okay, so I couldn't remember if she like made national team or not. I couldn't, especially with the changes. And I don't know when there's a battle back for third, and I definitely didn't pay attention to who was going for the national team spot during Final X. So yeah, that kind of lost on me. But no, yeah, you're right. This last 3 years, the shift's almost been, they've had more success on the women's side than they have on the men's. So it's kind of, like I said, maybe the club they know that and they see that and they'll make a push to keep him around.
Yeah, I'd definitely love to see him stay because, like I said, you think Hawkeye Wrestling Club, you think girls, and you think U.S. Girls Wrestling. Hawkeye Wrestling Club is probably the biggest woman supporter by far. So I definitely love to see him stick around. But on to our next topic with the recent news today of Dan Dennis coming back to Iowa City to take over the Hawkeye Wrestling Club.
I mean, you saw my article. I had 7 guys. Dan Dennis was one of those guys.
I gotta mention you told me it was your top 3.
He was my top 3.
33%.
That's right. Take it. Yeah, there were some pretty outlandish picks in my top 7, but when they said that they had already contacted 3 guys, I don't know who the other 2 is. Well, now we know for certain Dan Dennis was one of those 3. But I felt pretty confident that he was one of those guys. He's just, I mean, he's one of Tom and Terry's guys, right? That's why he came back in 2015. So, not the least bit surprising of who they went after for me. But yeah, I thought it was good news.
Yeah, and that article even had PA resident Jody Stripmatter, my coach.
That's right. Yeah, I was pulling out all the stops. But I mean, part of that, the mentioning for that, and it's the same, kind of logic I built in for Dennis is, Dennis has a pretty good familiarity with people in the room, especially Spencer Lee. With Gillman going to Nittany Lion, Spencer Lee becomes the rock of the best chance to make the Olympic team on the men's side. So you want to bring in somebody that can, maybe it is a little unfair to the rest of the guys in the club, but he's definitely going to have – Dennis is definitely going to have a really good intimate knowledge of Spencer capabilities. He's way more familiar with the lightweights. So, I mean, that'll be a pretty good positive for Spencer and the club. And, they obviously have that relationship of going to Rio together. So, and that's kind of what I thought of. The only reason I really brought up Jody is because he's got a very good knowledge of Spencer from his time at Young Guns Wrestling, and obviously in the future with Kemmer, Young, Mirren all coming. They're hitting the last year, or maybe they got 2 years left of college eligibility if they did go into the club having a guy like Jody around. Which, again, this was all speculation, but Jody, it's like, hey, we got a bunch of your guys that are ready to go to the senior level. We're seeing how they're doing at State College, and we want to, move them to the next stage, and we want somebody that knows our guys in and out. And, Dennis is kind of the same thing. He's been in that room for a couple of years. He knows those guys in and out.
Yeah, I kind of overlooked Dennis as one of the people to take over the spot. My 2 top picks were Ironman and Henson, but then I saw something today that Ironman wouldn't have been able to come because is it because of being Jaden's father, or what was that?
That's right. I forgot. Now that you bring that up, that rings a bell. So it totally negates my article that I forgot. Yeah, I think it's like 2 years.
He was even your picture.
Yeah, exactly. I know it. Yeah, you're right. I think it is after. It's like a 2-year freeze on hiring a relative. So, yeah. So Ironman, he definitely would have been a good choice, and he just started at
New England.
New England. Yeah, I wanted to call it something else. New England. That would have been a tough pull too, just like Strip Monitor, but yeah. And Henson, man, I don't even know where Henson's at. Do you?
I think his son's living here in PA, but I think he still lives down in Missouri and has a club down there.
Okay. Well, I mean, dude's always on the road, it looks like. So I don't know what Sammy's up to. I mean, he's a wild bull.
You almost also mentioned in the article, I don't know who would get the nickname Bull with him and Marinelli both in the room.
They'd probably have to wrestle for it.
I mean, even with Wyatt coming in, I'm sure Sammy will be around sometimes. Might not be able to be called the Bull in Iowa City.
I mean, yeah, it'll be an interesting because especially I don't know if Marinelli's going to go anywhere. So yeah, it's who knows?
Well, actually, like you said, I mean, they're around the same size. I mean, why not just wrestle for it?
I mean, might as well. Hopefully, and they both got about the same amount of hair. Alex doesn't listen to this, does he?
Hopefully not.
So, but as far as Dennis, I think that's a move to go out and get another Brand's brother. I mean, Dennis he fits that mold of being cut from the same cloth, I guess. I mean, he's a little bit more, from his personal life, Dennis lives a little bit more relaxed, I'd say. But, as far as the wrestling and the mentality, I think, he's a guy that didn't win a state title. He didn't win a national title, and he wrestled for an Olympic team. So he's definitely got the mindset of a competitor. And I'll be interested to see how he transitions into being, this is a marquee club. So I'll be interested to see how he takes that over. Just as interested as I was to see, Mark Perry coming in without being an actual freestyle coach. And he took that and grew tremendously. So, maybe we'll see the same thing with Dennis, who we just don't have a lot of knowledge on what he would be like as a freestyle coach.
Yeah, because I think Dennis was down in Tennessee running an RTC, and then coming back up here. I'm really interested to see what he can do because not much knowledge, like you said, because not many guys coming out of that Tennessee RTC. So we're not really sure what he can do on this as an RTC coach. But like you said earlier, with Spencer, they have a really good relationship going to Rio together. And I think that's just a great partner for Spencer and the program altogether. Yeah.
So, and, Lugo's joining the club. So there's another lightweight coming in. So, can get to work on him. And Lugo was in the finals for the junior world team spot. Did he lose to Deacon, I want to say?
I'm not sure.
All the way back when? That might have been Deacon's first junior world team.
Deacon won a silver world medal the one year.
Yeah, I thought it was Deacon, but maybe I'm wrong. But that was a pretty big year when that was before Lugo was technically a Hawkeye, I guess. But I mean, got another lightweight to mold, and he's obviously got Lugo was pretty good at in his Fargo days, and obviously I just mentioned his junior world team trial, so got a guy to mold, and we saw Lugo's offense really come alive in his senior year. He was a lot more committed in his shot. So, if he's got an offense, he could be, I mean, I don't know if I'll call him a world team contender, but I want to see him start contending for like a national team. Let's see where he stacks up.
Yeah, I'd love to see Lugo up there on the senior level and see what he can do.
Yeah.
Just moving into NCAAs being canceled, your thoughts on that? And I mean, did you see it coming? When did you realize that, oh crap, the NCAAs might get canceled?
It was pretty bad news when Division III nationals were in Cedar Rapids, which is 20 minutes away from where I live. So I had my credentials, and they sent out an email saying only essential personnel could go to nationals, and the email did not clarify if media was essential personnel to go. So eventually they said, yeah, if it's still on, media can come, and then they canceled it, and then, the NCAA canceled everything. But, I felt when they weren't even sure, like 2 days out from Division IIIs, if they could go, I was like, yeah, there's no way we're going to Minneapolis. So, yeah, that was a pretty big bummer experience. This was going to be my first national since New York. I did go to NYC, and so I was kind of pumped to be back, and the wife finally let me out of the house. I was ready to go, and obviously another big storyline was Iowa winning their first title in maybe a decade. So that was kind of that's a big thing for IA Wrestle, right? From a business perspective, I was pretty pumped up. This was going to be a big year for us, and and that's just how the cards fell, man. It was no good.
Yeah, I really didn't know too much.
Were you going?
No, I wasn't going. I'm kind of happy I didn't plan it now, because then I would have really been heartbroken.
Yeah, right.
So I'll wait till next year for St. Louis.
That's right. We'll just have to plan it.
I still haven't gone to one yet. So St. Louis sounds like a good one to be the first.
Why? pretty sure mine. No, I think my first one was in Michigan. Maybe I can't remember now. But yeah, I know St. Louis was either my first or second year going, and it was a blast. So.
Yeah, I really didn't see the cancellation coming until like Tuesday, maybe that week when or maybe on Wednesday, I'm not sure, but a couple NBA players tested positive for it that night. So then they suspended that season. Then the next day, all the pro seasons were suspended, and then it was that day that the players NBA suspended. We said no fans, and then the next day everything got canceled. So I was just sitting in school, and in between periods in the hall, I'd look at my phone, I'd be like, "Oh crap, there's another thing canceled," and I'd be sitting in class, and be like, "Oh, NCAA's is not going to happen. This isn't good." So I was just sitting there like almost crying in school, and then I got home, and then it actually canceled, and I got real sad. It's not a good day.
No, and I was really considering. I mean, I didn't know what the fallout would be, but I was still considering going if they were just going to say like just wrestlers, coaches, and media. Like I was like, all right, I'm still going to go. This is a chance at history to see. And so I mean, I was fully committed until the axe fell. So yeah, it was a pretty big bummer for him. I mean, a lot of people took it hard, and you see everybody fighting for guys to get the opportunity to get this year back. A lot of potential 4-time All-Americans won't be a 4-time All-American. A lot of guys looking for their first shot at the podium won't get that. I mean, it's heartbreaking for a lot of those guys that, put in the work, and now they, maybe their senior year was going to be their year and they don't get that. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty tough for, like I think of like the UNI guys, like Taylor Lujan, who's tough as nails, been following him forever, and this looked like his year. He's the number 1 seed, and he's gonna end his career without an All-American honor. It's a bummer, but yeah, I don't know, man. We gotta get back some happier news.
Yeah, it really sucks for us as Hawkeye fans, hoping for some first national title since this poster was made in 2010.
Is that oh man. Yeah, 2010, that was a year, dude. Whew.
It was.
5 in the finals. It was, and J-Bo was amazing. Yeah, that was a heck of a run.
That was the year that wasn't that the year that Metcalf pushed Caldwell after he hit the cartwheel?
No, I think he wrestled Lance Palmer that year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I remember watching 2010 on ESPN last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think that was 2009 when he lost to Caldwell, and because he won in 2008, he beat Bubba Jenkins, right?
I think so.
Does that sound right?
Get past 2017 and I'm lost.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so the 2010 they had McDonough, Dennis, Marion, Metcalf, and then J-Bo were all in the finals.
Yeah.
And then Dennis lost the heartbreaker. That was like, it's so gut wrenching to see, McDonough won. And
yeah. Now I remember that. Yeah, I watched that. That was.
You're static. You got this Iowa State battle, and you're like, yeah. And then you got, Dennis. Then he just wrenches your soul where he's 2 seconds away. And then, Marion should have won that match, but Kyle Dake defies physics and gravity to pull that one out. And I think Metcalf had lost in the Big Tens to Lance Palmer, and so it was like, there was a lot of drama with Metcalf, but then it closed out with J-Bo where, I don't think Mac Lunas had been taken down all year, and he went out and won that match. It was just, that was an incredible run, and they redshirted Derek St. John that year. They had more firepower in the tank, and they didn't even use it. So that's why there was like a lot of parallels to this year's team where they had a lot of guys. They ended up pulling the true freshmen in the 2020 version. But, they look like they were far and away point total-wise as they were in 2010. They just looked like they were going to dominate the field. So there was a lot of parallels, I thought, to the
Yeah, I've been really looking forward to this year since the preseason. I wrote a preseason lineup look article, and I was just really looking forward to it, thinking they're gonna be national champ from the get go. And then it really started to look their way when guys like Kassar got hurt, and then just stuff like that, and it really started to seem like they were pulling away. And then I was just really excited to see, because I was alive in 2010, but I wasn't following wrestling like really like at all.
Right.
I didn't really start following wrestling. Well, I probably watched it maybe in like 2015, 2016, but then I really probably started following it in like 2017, 2018ish. Like once you get past like 2017, I'm kind of lost.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's yeah, do your homework, man. It's all on Flow or somewhere, right? It's like you just gotta go find it. It's on YouTube for sure.
Yeah, there's matches like on Iowa Public Television on YouTube that you can find, like Metcalf, Kula, I think is one of the good ones, and Schwab, Guerrero. Those are all I watched Schwab Guerrero. That was a good one.
Yeah, it was always funny when we started out with Iowa Wrestling. You'd interview the guys, and they're talking about watching matches from the 90s, and, like guys when I was, a young pup. And it's just like, yeah, it was always crazy when they were talking about like the Gable years. And, they're like, yeah, I grew up, love watching Ironside just mow people down, or Joe Williams just dismantle people. And you're like, I didn't even watch Joe Williams live. Like you're talking about how you watch this match and you can break it down, like, and you're, 8 years younger than me. It's just crazy to me that, that's just the way the sport's changed, that these guys they go back and they watch matches from 20, 25 years ago.
So you mentioned that Iowa State rivalry. So you're obviously the Iowa guy for Iowa Wrestle. Who's the Iowa State kind of guy? Is it Torkelson?
Kinda. He's he's not as consistent.
He's more of the high school guy.
He does a lot of helps out streaming. So he does more of that. We really haven't had a consistent Iowa State guy for a long time. We did have Ben Swalla, who wrestled on the team. He helped out for a while. And then his brother kind of got in, because Ben and Luke are twins, and they wrestled at Iowa. And, Ben, I think, he quit toward the end of what would have been his career. And then Hank, their younger brother, kind of joined the squad, and it was probably a little bit hard to be unbiased covering. I'm sure he could have done it, but it's just kind of not where his passion was at. So really, since his brother came in, which was 5 years ago, I guess, but we haven't had a consistent Iowa State writer other than me, just trying to do two beats, that's a tough pull. So I've done a lot of the Iowa State coverage over the years, I would say.
I mean, it's a Hawkeye state. Do you really need someone to cover Iowa State?
You do. I mean, especially, you got Metcalf and St. John. Like I said, those guys were my era growing up. When I went my first nationals, I remember seeing Brett Metcalf, and I was like, I was young enough. I'm like, you got to sign my shirt. I still have it. The Metcalf signed shirt. It was one of my greatest moments. I remember. Now I'm going to blank on his name. I want to say it was one of the Stedman brothers. I was talking to them in the national suite, and they were like, you got to see this guy, Brett Metcalf. And it was, it was back before you could watch Fargo finals on Flow, like nothing, right? So, I hadn't seen Metcalf, and they're like, you got to watch this guy. He's like Tom Brand's reincarnated. And they're like, this lefty high C. They're like, he's unbelievable. And I was all jacked up. So Metcalf was definitely my era when I was just getting into the sport, like you're talking 2017. So that's why, seeing Iowa State and, St. John's right around my age, and I followed him a lot while I was wrestling. So those Iowa State boys, man, they got
some good stuff going on there.
I know what you're saying, but there's things to get excited about when I see those guys. And, obviously I formed a little bit of my relationship while they were at Iowa. So you kind of still have that feel for them. And I'm a UNI grad too. So I love UNI too. I bleed purple and gold just as much sometimes. So I kind of feel it all around, Dyson.
Torkelson had a tweet the other day with the red and yellow I Wrestle hat on. I called him out for it, and he made the excuse as just because of his red jacket.
Oh, well, he showed up to cover one Iowa duel this year, and he had his national champs. I don't remember what year shirt it was, but he had a Iowa national champ shirt on, and we're like, you're covering as media today. We better put on the official IA Wrestle zip up or something to, keep the professionalism here a little bit. Come on. We can't completely fanboy. We are a pretty big fanboy site, but we do try to be professional fanboys.
I'm definitely an Iowa fanboy, but try to be a little unbiased.
That's right. You got to, that's how you talk to people, right? If everyone knows you're just going to have the Iowa slant, nobody really wants, it's like, I know what he's going to say. So.
Yeah, I was hammering on Torkelson there, but.
Yeah, right. No, he's an interesting cat. Yeah, he helps out where he can, but no, we're if you know anybody in PA that wants to do it, just hit us up. Anybody can cover it, right? You don't have to be right there. Hager will go to the duels, so you don't have to actually go to the duels. We'll send somebody. But
So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but giving them the athletes that extra year, what did you think about that? Because I think it would have really caused a chaos for the coaches with recruits and stuff like that and red shirts. But did you think it was going to happen? What do you think?
Logistical nightmare. Yeah, I think Willie kind of really hit it on the head with his article where,
yeah,
I mean, there's roster limits, there's scholarship, the 9.9 scholarships, there's, I mean, you don't even talk about your lineup management. These guys are going on a 4 or 5 year cycle, and they know they're recruiting a guy to fill a hole. So not even considering now you got to manage all these relationships, that's a nightmare. You have this kid coming in and you're saying you're going to wrestle as a redshirt freshman, but hey, by the way, Spencer Lee just got a year back, so he's going to be, I'm sorry, you're out a year, and you came here to be a 4-year starter, which I shouldn't have said that because Iowa doesn't guarantee that when they recruit you. But, and I don't know if any coach does, but I know they don't tell you that, right? So, but at the same time, there's that expectation where these recruits want to come in and they know that if they put their work in and if they're the best guy, they should be it. And to have everybody get a year back would have been a nightmare there. And then the financial fallout, and now we're worried about keeping programs, so let alone adding extra guys and trying to keep people on scholarship. That would have been, I don't even know. Try to do a lineup look, and you don't know if Michael Kemmer's got 2 more years. How many is he going to be a doctor by the time this is done, or what?
Yeah, I would have loved to see the guys get the extra year, but I just think there's no way they could have made it happen with for the colleges because like I'm thinking Ybarra goes 33, so like Ybarra's coming in next year. He redshirts into as a senior. He graduates, and then Ybarra's in, and if he's good enough, he can be a 4-year starter. But otherwise, then he has to sit his freshman year if DeSanto gets that extra year.
Yeah, and that's tough, and it'd be the same thing with like Pat Kennedy and Marinelli, right? They're same weights, and do you just give it to the guys that qualified for nationals, right?
Yeah, because I thought that maybe he would have had to give it to everyone on a college roster because, like, say Penn State, for example, Mark Hall, and they have Carter Starocki redshirting. You give it to Mark Hall, and same thing, Starocki's going to have to. But then, I mean, it's but then if you give it to everyone, then recruits you can't do anything with high school kids. You can't just say, here, high school kids have an extra year.
Right. Yeah, and like think of Nelson Brands. He's a 65 pounder going up to 84, and he's wrestling dang tough. And then you're going to give. So now Kemmer's got a medical redshirt year plus his missed 2020 year. So does Nelson Brands never? He starts 1 year because he was stuck behind Mike Kemmer for 3 years, when Mike Kemmer was a senior as a freshman. It's just like, it's bananas. But yeah, so it's wild to think about giving him a year back. Like I said, it's heart-wrenching, but and this is a terrible comparison, but like back in World War II, maybe not World War II, but there's been wartime circumstances, or Dan Gable didn't wrestle 4 years, because they didn't let freshmen wrestle. So it's not crazy that guys aren't going to be 4-time All-Americans, because we didn't always have 4-time All-Americans. So it sucks, but you make the most of the time you got.
We kind of touched on the NCAA venues a little bit. What do you think about the football stadium idea?
I didn't like it. I thought it was going to be, maybe I'm coming in negative Nelly, but I thought it was going to be terrible. So I'm not heartbroken. I'm happy my return will hopefully be in St. Louis, back to friendly confines.
If your wife lets you out of the house again.
Yeah, I know. I got to look at the calendar, because it matters with my daughter's birthday. She was born, she was born on a Thursday during 2018 Nationals, I want to say. So, with the leap year, that really helped me out. It pushed her birthday to a Sunday. So I was going to be able to come home from Nationals. I was going to have to get home early on Sunday to celebrate, but
no Saturday night partying.
Exactly, and
can't go to the Hawkeye's hotel room and party with the Brands.
I know it, so that's why I was like, I'm giving that up, but it was going to be worth the pinch. And this year I guess it'll be on a Monday, so I guess I'll just have to work it out. But I'm hoping I'm okay to sneak out again for 4 days, and we'll see.
So now going to touch on the Olympics a little bit, being postponed, obviously. Just what do you think about that and everything going forward with that? Do you think they give Olympic red shirts next year? Do you think that they try to push into 2020 Worlds at the end of the year? And do you think 2020 Worlds is kind of out the window? Or just what are your thoughts on everything moving forward with that?
I think you got to throw 2020 Worlds out, because we haven't had any World Team trials. You got to try and figure out that nightmare on who you're going to send to 2020 World. So I think you just you push all your chips in on 2021. You just do the Olympics. That's obviously all my opinion. And I don't like the idea of another Olympic red shirt, because you're going back to the same thing I just kind of said. Like, how many years are these guys going to be in a college campus as a college competitor? Like, I'm trying to think of a good, so Jaden Ironman doesn't actually have to wrestle. Can he take another Olympic red shirt and graduate when he's like 26?
Technically, he won't be a Hawkeye till he's like 26 years old.
Right. Everybody makes fun of Tanner Hall for taking that Mormon mission, and, now being the oldest. He was the oldest guy wrestling, right? And that would be like the norm with, if you gave everybody a year back, plus you gave an extra Olympic red shirt, it'd be like everybody's an 8th year senior. So, I don't know if I like the idea of an Olympic red shirt, mainly because I kind of like how a lot of our success at the world level has come from guys that are just coming off a college season. That college grind. It seems like it's pretty beneficial. Snyder, Cox are freaks of nature, but they also, we're looking for our best to make the world an Olympic team. So we're looking for those freaks of nature to come out. And, I kind of want to see those guys battle tested. And it seems like the college season's been pretty good for a majority of them. Jordan Burroughs is the exception of always holding down 74, but we've had quite a bit of turnover at 57. Obviously Iowa's been pretty good at holding on to it, but it's 57's had a lot of turnover. 61 hasn't really been owned by anybody. 65, Metcalf was pretty good at holding down that spot, but it's been a while since he's been our guy. So there's quite a bit of turnover, and a lot of those young guys that come out firing, they got their hair on fire, and that's kind of what I like. So no, don't give them another Olympic red shirt. Let's just have all our college wrestlers wrestle at the Olympics, except for Burroughs. Well, but I guess Burroughs got to be Dake, right? So
yeah, that would have been a good one. I had Dake on for an interview a couple days or last week sometime. It was a good interview.
Dake seems like a really personable, fun guy. Maybe after 3 years, I will make a look at him. I feel like he'd be a fun guy to bring into Iowa City. As much heartbreak as he gave us in 2010. that we talked about earlier. But I think he's a real personable guy. I think he's going to be a great coach someday.
Yeah, and back to the Olympic redshirts for next year. If me in 8th grade, if they gave guys like Fix another Olympic redshirt, he could then take one in 2024, and then I could be wrestling him in 2025.
Isn't that bananas? Would you want to wrestle 25-year-old Dayton Fix who made the world team like 5 years ago?
It's like in 2025, I'm wrestling Dayton Fix. Oh yeah, I watched you in the NCAA finals in 2017 or 2019.
Yeah,
in 7th grade.
Yeah, that would be not very fun to be wrestling somebody that's got their man strength.
So now to ask you some questions. Where growing up did you ever wrestle?
I wrestled a couple years at my high school. I wasn't very good. Had a lot of things about wrestling, but I mean, I did enjoy my time with the sport. But I don't know. Just I guess I didn't really fit with actually competing in it, man. I don't know.
When did you realize you wanted to get into wrestling media, and kind of how did you get into wrestling media?
So I went to nationals in high school, even though I quit halfway through high school as an actual wrestler. So I always really enjoyed. That was my first taste of college wrestling, and it was starting to get on TV more. So I still followed it throughout college. Watching it on BTN was always huge. That's when you got one Iowa duel a year on BTN, but you always watched it. So that was pretty cool. And then kind of spur of the moment, I was just out of college and I was bored. I had extra time and I started a blog and I tweeted the link at Tony Hager and I said, hey, what do you think about this? And I think it was a senior post about maybe Ethan Lofthouse. It was like Lofthouse, Ramos, and St. John senior year. So I was writing up my senior day recapping their career for what I thought about those guys, and Hager loved it. He's like, dude, I got this idea for an IA Wrestle website. Would you want to come on? And I was like, I'm only really looking to write about Iowa. And he's like, okay, well, you can do that. If you want to do more, you can. And then nobody was writing anything. So then I got back into high school wrestling, and obviously, like I said, I went to UNI, so I was pretty familiar with a lot of those wrestlers. I had classes with them, so I was like, I was pretty invested in that UNI program too. So, I did a little bit of that, and then we found a UNI writer, so I didn't have to do that, and it just kind of happened. It fell into my lap, I guess.
Were you always an Iowa fan growing up?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm not really sure why. I think probably just because it was the closest school. I don't know. My family's not really big into sports, I wouldn't say. My dad, definitely not. My dad's more of an outdoorsman than he is a sports fan. He's come around later in life watching more sports on TV, but it wasn't really something we did to, father son. And my stepdad was an Iowa State grad, but he's more outdoor life and not, he's a farmer and not as much as into, football season. He's in the cornfield. So, I think that's kind of how I fell into Iowa, was listening to Gary Dolphin, the Iowa's play-by-play football announcer. And I listened to a lot of football games, and that's kind of what put me on to Iowa in the first place. And it just kind of was an easy choice as far as, I don't know, they were around.
So Tony Hager was the creator of IA Wrestle. I'm sure he could explain it a little better, but could you kind of just talk about how IA Wrestle came to be and now pretty big with a ton of guys like you and Lars and Tony and Ryder and Torkelson, stuff like that. Those are just the guys I know. You got more than that, but just talk about.
Yeah, we got an army. And that's kind of how it has to operate. So it started as an idea. Am I still good?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it looked like you kind of froze on my screen, so I didn't want to. So Hager wanted to do high school rankings. He wanted, and there was one website in the state, that did rankings, but they really didn't do a whole lot outside of that. They had a newspaper, I think, that came out every month, and he wanted to do something more online based, social media based, and he really wanted to promote the high school kids a lot more. So he found a guy that was willing to do, his buddy did 3A, he's like, I want to do 3A ranking. So he's like, okay. And that's how we found Lars is 2A guru. So, Lars did that high school rankings. He found somebody to do 1A. And so he got these guys to do rankings. I found him, but he thinks he found me to do Iowa stuff. And, he just kind of started putting these pieces together. And, we really do a lot of our majority, almost all of our work uncompensated. We were going to go to nationals and have our lodging paid for, I think is pretty much what we were going to get out of this year. And that's what we're happy to do. So it really just kind of started as a way to promote Iowa high school guys better. And he knew he needed a college component. So he brought me on, and I found Nick Ryder, which was pretty cool because Tony likes to say he found Nick, but I found Nick.
And thinks he found everyone, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So Nick is he's a home run hitter for, he can do media files with, video editing, photo editing. He got a job with the Open Mat as their social media guy. I know he does a little bit for volleyball and their other, soccer sports too, but this is a guy that he wasn't in the media world, and now he's, working for the Open Mat, and, he's knockout reporter, really. So it's just kind of been fun. None of us were really connected except for maybe Tony and Kirk, who started the website, and everybody else, we were just, he was kind of familiar with Lars, but not like, bros with Lars. And now, here we are 5-6 years in, and we have a text conversation. We're always talking to each other. And I think there's 10 people in our big main group chat. And then we have smaller chats for the rankers are all talking over here. They're always talking about this guy doing this guy's going to go up to 52. And oh my God, there's so many group chats going on. Sometimes it's hard for me to follow because I'm not like knee deep in the high school stuff, but these guys, they know everything inside and out, and it's incredible. So it's kind of a fun team to be a part of.
This is a PA podcast, but I got to ask, what do you think is the strongest Iowa high school division? 1A, 2A, or 3A?
1A for sure. That's where I'm from.
Oh, yeah. 1A, baby. I got to support my Lisbon boys.
Exactly. Lisbon won Battle of Waterloo, I think.
Yeah, they beat Don Bosco, and then they got a pin. He pinned Don Bosco kid and the states with an S.
No, it's just state duels, but yeah, okay.
But that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, Hauk pinned the Bosco kid, and they won but then Bosco kind of ran away with the individual.
Yeah, and I think Bosco, they had an incredible, just like the regular season dual meeting, and I think that was at Lisbon.
Yeah, Bosco won that. They beat him pretty good, I think, because most of the swing matches went Bosco's way.
Yeah, they bumped like 5 guys to end the duel, and they just they hit an incredible run with that to seal it up. So yeah, Bosco pulled out some bag of tricks, but Lisbon won 2 out of 3, and that's to say that Waverly Shell Rock and Southeast Polk were really 2 really good 3A teams, and West Delaware was a really good dual team in 2A. They got beat out for the individual title, even though they looked like they were the favorites, which was kind of a crazy deal too. But like you said, this is a Pennsylvania podcast, so you're the only one that knows these Iowa teams I'm talking about. But at least a lot of those programs are. I think they're in Intermat's Fab 50. So it's pretty incredible to see a school like Lisbon beating up on being able to beat Waverly Shell Rock, which is Waverly's tough. They're tough as nails.
Oh yeah,
so.
I remember. I know that may not have been the Lisbon Waverly out Battle Water. I think it was Waverly versus Bosco, and the place was just nuts. Someone got a takedown in overtime or something, and it went nuts. I saw that video. Yeah, I follow,
they're really close to each other. So they don't. Yeah, it's insane with those two.
I follow Iowa high school wrestling a decent bit. Hello.
Yep, I think I lost you there for a second.
I said I follow Iowa high school wrestling a decent bit.
I know. Guys. I saw you tweet after Lisbon won.
I was so happy. I was sitting at my desk here, and I was listening to a large play-by-play, and then I saw the video, and I sent out like 5 tweets of just like Lisbon baby, and then like just like 5 lions, and
I was like, I'm like, it's 10 o'clock our time. It's 11 o'clock at Dyson's time, and he's here tweeting about Lisbon.
Yeah, it was pretty late.
I was like, I couldn't believe it.
I was like, I gotta watch these guys, and then I was trying to look around to see if I could find a track wrestling account for the individual finals, but I ended up not getting one, so I just had to listen to large play-by-play again and look at the track live scoring. But my Lisbon
stick figures.
Yep. But my man, I'm closest to Avila. Robert, he's my man. 2-timer.
Yeah, they're a tough family. I mean, the younger brother, I think, won middle school title. The sister won a girls' state title. They're a ridiculous family.
Then you got the Happels. So that's just like they're just a different breed.
Yeah, it's like 13 state titles.
I think I saw something that was like the last 8 years a Happel kid has won it.
Yep.
Because the way
Carter right into Kale.
Yeah. And then hopefully Quincy can pick it up next year and get 2 more for him. That'd be unbelievable.
I think they got 2 more after Quincy.
Yeah.
2 more boys. So those Happels, they don't mess around. So I love that family. They're a great family. They're fun. And they know how to poke fun at each other too. So that's kind of always fun to watch too. Push each other's buttons.
So now that we got our Iowa high school talk and Lisbon talking, I think that wraps up the show. Anything else you want to talk about or say, Ross?
No, man. I mean, this is more in depth than the Potentially Dangerous podcast. So no, I mean, this was great. Thanks for
joining me, man. It was fun.
Yeah, anytime, man. Anytime.
Go Hawks.